As a result thereof, the contract was cancelled, which actually then raised a security concern in the Bangladesh Cricket Board. And they said if Mustafizur Rahman wasn't safe, then the entire team wasn't safe to play in India. Now, remember, the T20 World Cup is being hosted and co hosted by India and Sri Lanka. Pakistan's matches are slated to be in Sri Lanka. So there's no reason why Bangladesh couldn't have played. And they said that, we would stick by our players and we didn't think they were safe enough to play there. As a result thereof, the ICC then, took a decision and said, all right, we're going to kick you out and replace you with Scotland. Now, remember, Scotland hadn't qualified. 70% of all ICC tournaments revenue is generated from India. And
Wow.
that's because they're a bigger market. And it's because,
So it's more revenue than all other countries combined.
mostly, absolutely. And,
Wow.
and I'm going to break this down further because the question then, everyone's asking is that why is Pakistan supporting Bangladesh? What's their interest in it? It's not about the interest. I think it's mostly about exposing India as a sort of a financial bully, as someone who can impose whatever they want. Do you know that a Pakistan-India game generates 63% of the entire total ICC tournament revenue? And I'm just talking about a single game. Imagine a tournament happening without Pakistan. Imagine that 15th February game not happening. So
Absolutely.
the stance taken by Pakistan today, and I honestly really hope we reach to a reasonable consensus. Say Bangladesh is allowed back into the tournament, they're allowed to play in Sri Lanka. I hope the tournament goes ahead because let's be honest, a tournament without Pakistan is not going to be a World Cup after all.
No,
No
of
one's
course
really
not.
interested.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Legally Speaking. I'm your host, Ovais Anwar. The world of cricket is certainly no stranger to controversy, but the recent expulsion of Bangladesh from the ICC T20 World Cup, being held in India and Sri Lanka, is something quite out of the ordinary. Bangladesh objected to playing matches in India due to security concerns, and India in turn led the ICC in voting to kick Bangladesh out of the tournament and replace it with Scotland, a country that hadn't even qualified for the tournament. Pakistan's PCB chief Mohsin Naqvi said that what happened to Bangladesh was unfair, it was uncalled for, and Pakistan is now threatening to boycott matches in the tournament in protest. To make sense of how we've gotten here and to make sense of all of this, I have with me Barrister Kazi Omer Ali. Omer is partner at Hafiz Pirzada Law Associates based in Karachi and fellow cricket fanatic like myself. Thank you for joining us, Omer.
Pleasure.
Omer, could you briefly give us, your understanding of what's really happened? We've seen a country just being kicked out of the World Cup. That's not a small thing, right? Could you give us a bit of a background on that particular incident that's happened with Bangladesh?
So I guess the main question everyone's asking these days is what was the issue with Bangladesh and why did they eventually get kicked out and what was the reason behind it? We have to sort of go in the past, and it's slightly political as well. As you're aware, Hasina Wajid recently, was ousted from the government and is now seeking shelter in India. Some of the players or some of the general public in Bangladesh has not taken well to it, and obviously Bangladesh plays a significant part in the political situation in India, especially in Kolkata, where a majority of them reside. And with the ruling party, it's not gone down so well. So recently, what happened was that one of the well-known Bangladeshi cricketers, Mustafizur Rahman, who's the left arm fast bowler who does really well, plays regularly in the IPL. As a result thereof, was asked by the BJP members or the ministers in sitting on government. They requested the KKR, which is Kolkata Knight Riders, a franchise which is owned jointly by Shah Rukh Khan, famously known. So they asked them to, sort of cancel or terminate his contract. And some of the ministers also went as far as to sort of threaten him as well. As a result thereof, the contract was cancelled, which actually then raised a security concern in the Bangladesh Cricket Board. And they said if Mustafizur Rahman wasn't safe, then the entire team wasn't safe to play in India. And so, as a ICC member, like all other participating member countries, they decided to request for their right to have an alternative playing country, which, like Pakistan, could have been Sri Lanka. Now, remember, the T20 World Cup is being hosted and co-hosted by India and Sri Lanka. Pakistan's matches are slated to be in Sri Lanka. So there's no reason why Bangladesh couldn't have played. So the background to this escalation is that because of this, ensuing battle between the boards, the ICC laid down a deadline for them, and they said that we would stick by our players, and we didn't think they were safe enough to play there. As a result thereof, the ICC then took a decision and said, "All right, we're going to kick you out and replace you with Scotland." Now, remember, Scotland hadn't qualified, and while they're a member, but they're an affiliate member. They're not a full-time member, and you
I
have
see.
to qualify for the T20 World Cup. You have to, for whoever is not in the top six, you have to go through a tournament and then qualify. So they've now been replaced by Scotland. Then the question that really begs us is that why is Pakistan taking a stand, and why is Pakistan supporting them? There's also certain history to this as well. Pakistan at the outset is right in supporting them. Why? Because unlike Pakistan, they're also a member, and they also have a voting right on the ICC committee. Remember, the ICC is a legislative body, unlike the FIFA. FIFA administers the affairs of football, whereas the ICC is a legislative body with 12 members on it who vote for every tournament or activity or any rule that is passed by the ICC. So, for example, when a tournament or an ICT tournament will happen, there are three major tournaments as far as the men's cricket is concerned. You have
Yeah.
the ICC World Test Championship, you have the 50 over World Cup, and then you have the T20 World Cup, which is soon to start. They obviously happen periodically. There's a table set out for the Test Championship. For the 50 over World Cup, it's a 4-year period, and mostly for the T20, it's a year and a half to two, depending on how the schedule is running. So that legislative body has a committee which then votes on issues like security. For example, and I'll go into the past for this. You would recall last year the Champions Trophy was to be hosted by Pakistan. It was successfully hosted. But
Absolutely.
before the tournament started, the Indians had sent down their security team along with the ICC panel to assess the security situation in Pakistan, and they gave a go-ahead and they said that everything was fine. Pakistan was a safe country to play in. However, India chose not to play. And all their matches, you would recall, they won the ICC Champions Trophy, but all those matches were played in Dubai on the same track, and on all five matches were played there. So a truce was reached between India and Pakistan and their respective boards that if it's not safe for Pakistan to play in India, then sorry, if it's not safe for India to play in Pakistan, then vice versa, it's not safe for our players to also. So they decided that whenever an ICC tournament would happen, Pakistan and India would play at a neutral venue. So right now it's being co-hosted by Sri Lanka. That's why all our matches are now in Sri Lanka. So if the
Yeah.
tournament goes ahead as per normal rules, and Pakistan and India make it to the final, they as per agreement have to fly down.
And
And
Umer, do correct me if I'm wrong, but Pakistan and India have not had a bilateral series since
it's
I think
been, I think the
2012.
last one was in 2006-07
Oh, I
when
see.
India visited. It's been a while. They haven't had a bilateral series, even
Oh,
in a neutral venue. That topic is always discussed upon. For
yeah.
example, why can't we have a Pakistan India Test series in Dubai and Abu Dhabi? But that never happens. We only end up playing each other in these ICC tournaments where we are in the same draw or in the pool if the teams end up in the same table, like they have this time around as well, and in the recently concluded Asia Cup as well. So, coming back to the Pakistan support bit, you see, if we are to, break this or decipher this further, we need to go into the actually we need to, address the numbers game. The Indians, it's not a hidden fact. Everyone knows they're a big financial juggernaut. They pull in, and these are some staggering figures that I'll share with you. 70% of all ICC tournaments revenue is generated from India, and
Wow.
that's because they're a bigger market, and it's because
So it's more revenue than all other countries combined.
mostly, absolutely. And I'm going to break this down further because the question then, everyone's asking is, He said, "Why is Pakistan supporting Bangladesh? What's their interest in it?" It's not about the interest. I think it's mostly about exposing India as a sort of a financial bully, as someone who can impose whatever they want. Whereas,
Umair, let's discuss that. But if you could just help us understand these figures and the revenue game and really the structure of the ICC, how it's emerged as being this India-centric almost entity.
so you would know that, and everyone knows, the ICC is now headed by Jay Shah. And Jay Shah's father is, a prominent member
The
of BJP.
infamous Amit
Everyone.
Shah, if you will.
Yeah. So ever since he's taken over, because of the financial powerhouse that India is, and I'll share some numbers here, and it'll be easier for viewers to understand. Because of the sheer number of revenue they generate,
Yeah.
it's easy for them to, and a lot of it, a lot of this part is played in because of that big three. You would recall a few years ago, the big three decided to, run the game. It's because of the numbers and their presence in the game. But interestingly enough, while the big three may be there in India, maybe the bigger one out of the big three, the other two being Australia and England, do you know that a Pakistan-India game generates 63% of the entire total ICC tournament revenue? And I'm just talking about a single game, and we can narrow it down. I mean, we've had some epic clashes in the last few years, but
Absolutely.
one such epic clash would be the Melbourne game in the T20 World Cup that happened in Australia. In the first game, when Pakistan got like 160 odd, and then
Mhm.
Virat Kohli played that magnificent knock, and they. So
Yeah.
let me share some numbers with you. You know, one channel in India, and I'm just talking about an average channel from a Pakistan India game, the 10-second slot that is there for advertisement is sold for roughly $18,000. Now,
Wow.
$18,000 for a 10-second slot. The viewership is around 50 to an hour, keeping in view all the ad breaks and all that come in. So now you can do the math. For a 50-minute viewership, it's $5.2 million. And this I'm talking about a single channel. Everyone can do the math themselves. कि India में कितने, there's so many channels in India. You break it down further. A broadcaster in India, only in India, generates between 30 to $35 million from an India-Pakistan game.
Wow.
Now let's go global. Globally, Pakistan and India, one India Pakistan game generates 1.13 billion, roughly $1.1 billion. That's a lot
Wow.
of money. So, when I talk about the Pakistani strength and why Pakistan is taking a stance, is because of these numbers.
It's a
Imagine a
billion dollar
tournament.
question.
Yeah, imagine a tournament happening without Pakistan. Imagine that 15th February game not happening. There's a
Mm.
serious question mark for the broadcasters to consider whether we are even, covering this or not.
And the entire economy and the entire economy that surrounds cricket, right? Pakistan becomes vital to that very question.
Absolutely. It's bigger than the Super Bowl in America that happens.
Wow. Wow. I had no idea of this.
Now let's break this down further. Um, then there's also, these were broadcasting rights, and there is digital broadcasting as well. One single game, $4 to $6 million. Now multiply it with the number of digital broadcasters in India and Pakistan both. Let's go
Wow.
further. Then you have other sponsorships as well, titles, player sponsorships and all, 30 to $50 million. This is
Wow.
one Pakistan India game. Now, now let's, there's history to it. Now, why Pakistan can actually take a stance and actually take it, authoritatively.
Mhm.
You would recall back in 2017 when the Champions Trophy happened, Pakistan won that Champions Trophy. When
Yeah.
we started the tournament, we were rated as a team which was slated at number eight, and India was a number one team. There was
Mhm.
a round robin match where India, easily beat us, all aspects of the game. And then there was that final, memorable final, which Pakistan won, led by Sarfaraz Ahmed. Those You see, the figures for that final, now compare that to the figures that I just shared with you. An India-Pakistan final. Let's now go in the recent past. Recently, you've had a Asia Cup concluded in Dubai, where
Hmm.
Pakistan and India played thrice. They played two round robin matches and then they played a
Yeah.
final. Just multiply the numbers that I just shared with you. Three Pakistan India games. And
Wow.
then now 15th go you are slated to play them on the 15th, and there can be a possible semi-final or final clash again. We're in the same group.
Yeah.
So if and again, I'll go slightly into more depth. Um, there's a famous Indian group known as Geostar, uh, owned by Mukesh Ambani.
Yeah.
They interestingly enough, they own certain broadcasting rights in the ICC as well, and the IPL as well. So when we talk about India or Pakistan taking a boycotting stand, it affects their revenue. This is where the broadcasting angle comes in. You see, interestingly enough, now check this out. If Pakistan boycott and don't go, who is ICC going to replace them with? Any guesses?
I don't know,
Uganda.
Zimbabwe. You can, wow. A
Now
team that
imagine
I had not,
Now
you don't
imagine
hear about.
for a broadcaster, what a shock it would be to know that Pakistan is not playing and 15th go India will be playing Uganda. So it changes the entire financial dynamics of that game.
Their
Mukesh
entire
Ambani is
forecast.
not a small player in the Indian
Yeah.
economy. He's a supporter, and it's a known fact, he's a supporter of the current government, but he's
Hmm.
also an investor in these broadcasting rights.
Yeah.
So the entire so you see we have to understand that Pakistan's stance is not only to support Bangladesh. Yes, it is, as a member state. They say they have a right to have an alternative, but it's also to to a certain extent expose India, or to show that yes, we understand they bring in a lot of finances, but we also play a huge part in it. We are a number one broadcasting favorite team.
Yeah.
Pakistan India clashes are epic. I mean, no matter what happens, everyone's glued to it. So
Absolutely.
the stance taken by Pakistan today, and I honestly really hope we reach to a reasonable consensus. Say Bangladesh is allowed back into the tournament, they're allowed to play in Sri Lanka. I hope the tournament goes ahead because let's be honest, a tournament without Pakistan is not going to be a World Cup after all.
No,
No
of
one's really
course not.
interested.
Yeah.
And to just
So,
top this off,
yeah.
there's an interesting angle to this as well. Now, let's suppose
Mhm.
Pakistan takes a stance and says that we are going to boycott and not going to, go and play. The ICC could, well, just go ahead and replace Pakistan with Bangladesh again. So
Mhm.
the million-dollar question then also is that is Bangladesh standing with us? Will they then also take a stance? And on current situation, you can predict that they would, but it's these kind of games or it's these situations that a stand needs to be taken against, which Pakistan is as being a force in one day cricket or general of the cricket world all over is doing. That's the actual scenario behind it.
Absolutely. Ume, I'm really grateful to you for explaining really this situation because our understanding really, I mean, we thought Pakistan was in a very weak position when it comes to this, but our negotiation, our position of our bargaining position really is quite strong. Having understood this, so that's it's really good that we've heard that. Ume, I wanted to ask you how when we say the big three, right? If we're talking about the 12-member voting committee, so how does the big three really exercise control in this regard?
So, in simpler terms, firstly, it's the voting game. So there are 12 members on it.
Hmm.
Um, it's like the big three will vote in favor of one thing, and then that leaves the other teams in it. If we are to call them the second tier teams,
Hmm.
no doubt South Africa by no means is a second tier team. They just won the World Test Championship last year.
Yeah.
But in terms of revenue, now, if you look at Australia, for example, in the recently concluded Ashes matches, you saw that there were certain matches which ended in 2 days, almost a day and a half. And
Mm.
that's, actually caused a lot of revenue loss to the Australian broadcasting agencies and also to Cricket Australia as a whole. Because like Australia, like India, Australia also generates a huge amount of viewership, not only in terms of television, but also a lot of people actually coming down to the stadium and watching it.
Yeah.
So Australia and India and England for that matter, you go to England for any summer for a test series, you'll see stands are always full as compared to Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh. That's not quite the scenario. So from that angle, they're considered a big three because they not only generate a lot of revenue jointly, but also the viewership is slightly better. Not to say that the viewership in Pakistan isn't, but they are a big three from that angle. And when they get together, for example, you would have seen the number of test matches played by the big three comparatively to Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and South Africa is considerably less. Like a player like Babar Azam would maybe at best, if he doesn't get injured, might end up playing at best 100 matches in his career. Whereas Joe
Mm.
Root is already, way above 130, is almost touching Sachin's record. Same for
Yeah.
Kohli and Rohit Sharma. So
So there's clearly a preferential treatment that is perhaps
there is,
given.
there is, and then if you look at it, Pakistan hasn't played a five-match Test series since 1992. I mean, it might be
Wow.
another separate discussion that our players may not survive it, but but if you don't play it, you ain't surviving it,
Yeah.
right? So since 1992 is the last time we played England in a five-match series. We haven't played a five-match series thereafter.
Wow.
And so there is, I mean, I understand there can be, two or three big countries getting together and, but it is generally India because of its pure financial strength and burden and the revenue it generates is, that sort of imposes itself on the ICC and the other countries then follow through. So once again, going back to our discussion, why is Pakistan, important, and why Pakistan is only taking a stance is because of the sheer numbers game.
Mm.
No one's generating, even an Ashes test match does not generate the revenue, the kind of revenue that an India-Pakistan game generates. So this is how the big three operates. And there's been talk of, in the recent past of creating different tiers that, certain teams beat or get to a certain level is only after which they will be allowed to play the big three, which doesn't
Yeah.
make sense because if the big three are just going to play themselves all the time, how do you expect the, game to, expand, improve, and other, affiliate members to come through the ranks?
No, I think that's a recipe for very boring cricket, to be
Very
honest.
boring cricket.
If the
You
same.
can't just see Australia, India play each other or South Africa or England,
Exactly.
Australia, playing Ashes every month. It's as exciting as it is.
Yeah.
Australia.
It's exciting because it comes after this duration every 2 years,
But
and
look at it in England stats. They've taken like 17 odd years to beat Australia in Australia. It's sorry, 10 years.
mm,
So it's not it's only exciting if it's competitive. Yes,
yeah.
some test series are very competitive, but again, if you don't play the others, if you don't give them a chance, if you don't know, how will the game expand to global horizons? It's
Yeah.
always about those five, six teams. Pakistan, India, Pakistan, India, Australia, South Africa, Sri Lanka at best. West Indies, now it's not a force to reckon with in the last so many years. So um, there is an issue, but
Mhm.
again, like I said, Pakistan is a force to reckon with and will always be. It's a serious numbers game with us.
No, absolutely. Omer, I just wanted to ask you if you could explain to us what is the ruling statute or the ruling rules that govern the ICC and the member states specifically in these issues like Bangladesh and others.
So, like I explained earlier, there's a legislative body in the ICC.
Mhm.
They have 12 member countries who are regular playing members who vote. And so
Okay.
when it comes down to issues like, for example, the current recent Bangladesh issue, what happens is that they take a vote on it. They ask
Ah,
all
okay,
members
okay.
to vote. Okay, what is to be the next solution if a country is not coming? And India had taken a hard stance on the fact that there is no security issue. All countries are playing right now. In fact, New Zealand just concluded a T20 series there as well and a one-day series. They beat
Mm-hmm.
them for the first time in 37 years in an ODI series. So India took a hard stance saying, okay, it's all right, our country is safe. And the way the rules work is that if the ICC has given a clearance, if the security teams have given a clearance, and then a member team does not come in, then a voting happens, and in that voting, they decide who's to replace them. So obviously, Pakistan voted in favor of Bangladesh for an alternate venue.
Yeah.
For all other teams, decided that it was, safe to play in India. After all, Australia and other countries will be traveling to India to play their matches. So they voted, and a replacement was had. Again, Pakistan uh, stance is not only to support Bangladesh as being a member country, but it's also to you know uh, sort of get done with this bullying stance of India where it can impose. If you could, let's go back way back in '96, if you remember, the World Cup was hosted by Pakistan, India,
Yeah.
and Sri Lanka as well. And Australia refused to fly down to Sri Lanka, citing the security concerns back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't play their matches over there. They were all forfeited. So there was no big three then, but being a member state or being a member of the ICC, they decided to take their stance, and they were all right. They eventually made it to the final of the World Cups. So if that's how you have to fairly and indiscriminately treat members, then why should Bangladesh not be allowed their right to play elsewhere? It's at the end of the day their board's call if they feel a certain place is secure or not. And again, just to quote a very, very recent example, you would recall very recently Pakistan in December, Sri Lanka was visiting Pakistan for a T20 series. That blast happened
Yeah. Yeah.
outside the Kacheri in
In,
Islamabad.
in
The,
Islam,
the
yeah.
Sri Lankan team, yeah, and the Sri Lankan team decided to continue because it was their discretion. They
Yeah.
decided they assessed the security situation. We also, tightened it a bit, and at the end of the day, their board was comfortable that it's all right. So, as a member state, you're allowed to, take that discretion.
Yeah.
It's just at the end of the day, a matter of the ICC and the India having their influence on the board.
Umair, right now the stance that Pakistan has taken is, boycotting a particular match, as far as I understand it, or is it
Yeah.
all? So the particular match with India, and that, of course, as you've mentioned, has financial implications as not. What are the powers that the ICC has in this regard? Can it punish Pakistan in some way? Okay.
Yeah, so to clarify, I think the stance is generally to boycott the World Cup because, I mean,
The entire tournament.
I think it wouldn't because generally it wouldn't make sense to say we're not playing India on the 15th, and then they sort
And
of
forfeit those
somehow
points. Yeah.
qualify for the final, suppose, and it's a Pakistan-India clash. Will you again not play them and hand over the World Cup to them? No, right? So logically, it would make sense not to go for the tournament. So if Pakistan doesn't comply because all the other members would have voted, there can be repercussions for Pakistan. There can be certain penalties. There can be cuts in revenues. Because remember, when a ICC tournament happens, and especially for future tournaments, if Pakistan is to host something, there's a revenue sharing, and the host always gets a slightly bigger chunk. So the ICC is empowered to put certain restrictions on Pakistan. If you recall, one example is back in the day when apartheid was, an issue in
South
South
Africa.
Africa. The ICC had taken a hard stance and sort of, taken away South Africa's rights of playing. They improved themselves. They built an infrastructure, and they came back in '92, and they were actually a pretty strong team. They made it to the semi-final. So yes, the ICC can impose bans. They can impose revenue cuts. There are various ways of, the ICC coming down on Pakistan. In fact, depending on the gravity of the situation, sometimes you require certain member countries to play depending on their ranking to qualify for the World Cup as well. Like West Indies wasn't able to qualify for the last World Cup in India. So there can be those sort of penalties on Pakistan as well. But like I said, for now, Uganda has stated to replace Pakistan in case we don't make it. Don't think that'll do any good for the world of cricket or for the broadcasters or anyone for that matter. No one's really
Absolutely.
interested.
And Omer, just before I let you go, I wanted to ask, where do you feel ICC reform, if it were to take place? Because, from Pakistan's perspective, this is not really the favorable position to be in. We don't want the type of petty things that are happening with Jesha in leadership, as we saw in the Champions Trophy that Pakistan was hosting.
Right.
The promos, the uniform, a number of these issues.
Pakistan was missing in it. Yeah.
Exactly, right. And so, other than the petty things that certain leadership is doing, how can we have reform that gives a more democratic approach to all of these things?
I think you see, I often say this, that the election process must always be democratic. Now, to some extent in the ICC, it is, because every member gets a chance every now and then to, head the ICC. Pakistan has headed it in the past through Ehsan Mani as well, in Safraz when he was captain. So it's not so much about the ICC not having a democratic forum. It's or a way of electing their heads. It's I feel it's down to the numbers game, and I think other members have to be fair. I understand a lot of revenue comes in from India. I understand they are a big financial juggernaut in this. They generate a lot of revenue, but I think it's down to other member states and other members putting their foot down and saying, yes, we understand there's a big financial intake from you, but at the end of the day, all members are to be treated equally. That's how any constitution or any democratic state would operate. Just because someone generates a larger amount of revenue, or someone generates a larger share of the proceeds, just like, for example, the IPL, the numbers are through the roof for the IPL. But
Yeah.
and that's why most foreign cricketers are attracted to it, because 2, 3 good seasons in IPL, and you're good for life. So it's more a matter of the member states actually clamping down and saying, all right, let's not sit down and discriminate against sides which may not have far-reaching financial repercussions. At the end of the day, they are there to govern the game, expand the game, ensure that the ranking system goes out of these 10 or 8 member playing nations, test playing nations, to say 20, 30. And the only way of doing that is to you know put their foot down and say, okay, all right, the revenues are coming in from India, no problem, but these revenues will be used to expand the game further. You can't, so the last 100 years, cricket has survived purely on these 7, 8 teams, and we all love it, because every 6 months, there's a home season for Pakistan, and then we'll travel. But at some point, the interest will start to dwindle. It's
Yeah.
already dwindling in terms of Test cricket. The newer generation doesn't have the patience maybe you and I had to watch 5-day matches.
Which is such a loss.
Yeah, which is a loss, but because for them, even a T20 game takes 3 hours compared to a
Yeah, I
football
know.
game that's 90 minutes. So the member states need to sit down and see where the future of the game is headed.
Yeah.
There's so many leagues now. There's PSL, there's IPL, there's BBL, there's the Bangladesh League, there's the Sri Lankan League, there's the West Indian League that plays. So, like football, cricket will slowly start developing towards the leagues. Until these member states sit down and decide that the expansion of the game is more important than revenue,
Yeah.
it'll be, you can have any democratic process in, but if one member state is always going to stand up and show muscle on, revenue, it's never going to be the same. So you need to, sit down. All member states need to have a joint policy implemented, where they say that, let's focus on expanding the game. Let's focus on bringing in new people, like the US, for example, in recent times has been a welcome addition. They beat us in the last World Cup, if everyone would recall. So let's push towards, more teams coming in, and that can only happen if all these 4, 5 big playing nations get together and clamp down on one, dominant force.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Omer. And really, for the love of the game, if we need some reform, it's really to bring that level of fairness back in. I'm really grateful for you taking out the time, and hopefully we'll talk to you again soon. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have for today. If you're watching this on TV, then be sure to visit Dawn News English's YouTube page for the full podcast. Till next time, goodbye.